Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Week 9 of college football definitely did not disappoint. We saw 7 top 25 teams lose. We saw the thriller between Penn State and Ohio State. The Buckeyes came back down 18 points to defeat the number 2 ranked team in the country, and now they are in control of their own destiny in the Big Ten title race. We saw a couple other minor upsets throughout the college football world, and we saw a major head coaching fire as Jim McElwain lost his job at Florida. So it was a very eventful weekend. Definitely didn't disappoint. It was very exciting. And now we're going to recap what happened in Week 9, see how we did on predictions, and then we're going to preview a little bit what's going to happen in the college football playoff rankings as those are released tomorrow night on Halloween. So let's jump into it. So Week 9, I went 23-10. Missed a couple games here and there that I probably shouldn't have missed. Just when I went back and looked at it, after I saw my summer predictions, I was like, man, why did I pick that game? Or, man, I thought I picked this guy to win and ended up didn't. But it was about 70% winning percentage, not too bad. That brings our overall to 285 and 87. So if you round that up, there's a 77% winning percentage. And like I said, my goal at the end of this season is to be at 75% or higher. I consider that a very successful year in my eyes. So right now, we're on target for that. Could potentially get better than that as the year goes on. So overall, not a bad week at all. Overall record, not bad at all. Still almost 200 games more wins than losses. Teams that I have trending down. Washington State. Now, they've lost 2 games so far this season. This was a team that was number 8 in the country just a few weeks ago. Got blown out at California. All hope was not lost at that point. Had they been able to win out, they probably could have still been in the race for the Pac-12, maybe getting in the college football playoff if they had won the Pac-12 championship. But then they lost to Arizona and Khalil Tate this past weekend. Washington State was able to put up the points. Arizona was just able to put up a little bit more, scored over 50. And Washington State's now down to 2 losses, and they're definitely out of the college football playoff race, maybe even the Pac-12 title race. And that's very disappointing for them. This was a team that I had high expectations for. And as starting out getting up to that number 8 ranking after beating USC earlier on in the season, they looked really dominant, weren't able to pull it out in the end. Florida, I mentioned earlier, they fired or he resigned Jim McElwain as a head coach at Florida. I believe they're 3-4 right now. Got annihilated by Georgia this past weekend. So, and then that wasn't a huge shocker. I thought the game was going to be a lot closer than that. I was obviously wrong. But I am surprised they fired Jim McElwain. I mean, in his first 2 years, he came from the Mountain West at Colorado State. Think about that. The transition coming from the Mountain West into the SEC, and I know it was the SEC East, not as dominant as the SEC West, but still, in his first 2 years, he took Florida to the SEC East, won the SEC East title, took them to the SEC championship. Yes, they lost both years, but that was to Alabama. He was 19-8, I believe, going into this season, and they fired him. I was a little shocked by that. But I guess that's just kind of how it is. They expect results down in Florida. I don't blame them. This has been a very disappointing year for them, and he was never able to get that offense to where they needed to be. So he's out as Florida's head coach. Now they need 3 more wins to get to a bowl game. Season's not all lost, but I know Georgia is definitely in control for the SEC East right now. No doubt about it. So they're just going to have to be hoping for a bowl game. The Gators are. Texas Tech. Now, this was a team that was ranked number 24 just a few weeks ago. They were in the rankings. Everything was looking great, and now they've lost 3 straight. They're now 4-4. They've lost to West Virginia, Iowa State, and this past weekend they lost to Oklahoma. And I had them trending down. I believe I had them finishing 5-7 this year, and a lot of people thought I was crazy as the year went on, but I knew that stretch was going to be a little bit tough for the Red Raiders. Now they're sitting at 4-4. They have a game against Baylor coming up in 2 weeks. If they win that, they'll obviously have 5 wins. I mean, the goal obviously is just to get to a bowl game. They still have key games against Kansas State, TCU, and Texas. So all I really need to do is win 2 of those last 4. I assume the Baylor game will be a win. So if they win one of those games I just mentioned, they'll be able to get to 6 wins and be bowl eligible. Maybe save Kingsbury's job as head coach there. We'll have to wait and find out. But very disappointing for Texas Tech considering the start they had. Now they're down to 4-4. Definitely not what they wanted to see. Teams trending up. Forgot the little arrow there, but we got Boston College. So a team that people have asked me about in the comments, when's Boston College going to be on the trending up list? They finally made it as they annihilated Florida State. And yeah, we all know Florida State's having a horrible year, mostly due to that DeAndre Francois injury. But Boston College was a team, when I was looking at them early on, they've been a team that struggled to find offense. They've never been able to put up that many points. Now they've won 3 straight ACC games, defeating Louisville, Virginia, and now Florida State. In that Louisville and Virginia game, they scored 40-plus points. Against Florida State, they scored 35. things are looking really good for Boston College. I believe they have 5 wins, so they're just 1 win away from bowl eligibility as well. Mississippi State, a team that people kind of wrote off. They annihilated LSU early on in the season, then got crushed by Georgia and Auburn. Everybody kind of wrote them off after that, and they're now back in the rankings, getting that huge win over A&M on the road, which surprised me. Not only that they won, but how bad they won. I believe the final score was 35-14. I was surprised they went in to College Station to beat the Aggies that bad. So that's a huge win for Dan Mullen and the Bulldogs. They're sitting at 6-2. I think they've got a game against UMass. That should be 7-2 after this week. Things are looking really good for the Bulldogs. They could be looking at a great season, assuming they finish strong. And then I kept Iowa State and Arizona up on my teams trending up. I know I had them on last week, but I've just been very impressed with both of these schools. Iowa State getting the huge win over TCU this past weekend. TCU at the time was number 4 in the country, so that was a huge win for Iowa State. Give credit to their defense, holding TCU only to 7 points, and those points came on a kickoff return, I believe, to open up the second half. So that's a heck of a win for the Cyclones. Things are looking great there. Arizona, Khalil Tate, they defeated Washington State, as we all know. They're looking great in the Pac-12. A very dangerous team. I believe Arizona also got into the rankings, the AP poll this past week. So things are looking great for the Wildcats, and I wanted to keep them trending up because they beat another top 15 team. And if anybody can stop Khalil Tate, let me know, because he's on fire. I don't know anybody that's going to be able to stop him. So they're looking like they could potentially win out for the rest of the season, maybe slip up once there along the way. But Arizona is definitely going to salvage their season and get to a bowl game, assuming he stays healthy. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention here, though, college football playoff rankings do come out tomorrow night, Halloween night. And like I said, we're going to have a preview or a recap video about that on November 1st. We're going to look at the rankings, kind of analyze them, see if I agree or disagree with what the committee decides. Iowa State, I think Iowa State will definitely be ranked in the college football playoff rankings. However, Iowa State has the potential to win out this season, no doubt about it. They do have the potential. They've already beaten Oklahoma. And that was one of their toughest challenges. They could make it to the Big 12 championship. If for some reason they win the Big 12 championship, I do not see Iowa State making the college football playoff because of the 2 losses. They already have 2 losses to Iowa and Texas, both mediocre teams, and I think that's going to end up hurting the Cyclones' chances. They'll definitely, if they win out or win the Big 12 title, that will definitely make a New Year's Six bowl, no doubt about that. But their chances of making the top 4, I think, are very slim, despite the huge wins over Oklahoma and TCU, because of their 2 losses to not very good teams. That's going to hurt the Cyclones, but once again, credit to them defeating TCU this weekend. Things are looking great for them. So make sure you keep an eye on that. Make sure you watch the college football playoff selection show tomorrow when they announce those rankings. Like I said, we're going to recap those on November 1st, but I'm very curious to see who's going to be in the top 4. We know it's probably going to be Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, and who will they throw in as the 4th team? More than likely, it'll be like a Wisconsin or something like that, because they are still undefeated, very dominant right now in the Big Ten. I expect them to go undefeated. I don't see any huge obstacles along the way, except for, I believe, Michigan. I think they still have to play them. But it's going to be very interesting to see how the committee's thinking and what happens tomorrow night. So keep your eye on that. We'll have a video about that, and we'll have our Week 10 preview show or preview video on Thursday or Friday, so be ready for that. Thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time on The Gridiron Expert.